The story of the RMS Olympic. The White Star Line's Olympic was laid down in late 1908 and was launched in late 1910. She was fully completed by May of 1911 and so began making regular transatlantic crossings from Southampton to New York, with stops in Cherbourg and Queenstown. Just a few months after her maiden voyage, the Olympic was involved in a collision with the HMS Hawke in the Solent. Nobody was seriously injured or killed, and both ships made it out alive, albeit damaged. However, the Hawke nearly capsized. Then in February 1912, the Olympic lost a propeller on an eastbound voyage from New York, forcing her once again back to her builder for repairs. The parts were actually sourced from Titanic to put her back in service faster, delaying the Titanic's maiden voyage for another 3 weeks. During the Titanic's sinking, she acted as a messenger, working with Cunard's Carpathia to deliver messages to both Cunard and White Star. After the Titanic disaster, Olympic was fitted with more lifeboats to have the capacity of everyone on board. In October 1912, the Olympic was withdrawn from service to incorporate lessons learnt from the Titanic disaster. During this time, huge alterations were made to her watertight compartment, making her more secure in case of the ship having a breach in the hull. This meant that in a similar scenario to Titanic's, she would be able to remain afloat. During the First World War, Olympic was repainted in wartime camouflage and remained in passenger service until she was requisitioned as a troopship in May 1915. She was stripped of her peacetime fittings, was armed, and was now able to carry 6,000 troops. In 1917, she was repainted into dazzle camouflage. In August 1919, the Olympic returned to Belfast to be restored to civilian service again. Her interior was modernised, and her boilers were converted to oil firing as opposed to coal burning. This allowed her refuelling process to be reduced to hours rather than days. Her tonnage was increased to 46,439, and she remained the largest British-built liner afloat. However, Cunard's Aquitania was longer. She returned to regular service in June 1920. Olympic carried 38,000 passengers during 1921, which would become her peak year of her career. With German liners Majestic and Homeric acquired as running mates, they operated until the Great Depression reduced demand in 1930. In 1924, Olympic collided with the liner Fort St. George, causing severe damage to the smaller ship and fracturing Olympic's stern post, forcing the replacement of her entire stern structure. At the end of 1927, the decision was made to allow Olympic to carry tourist third cabin passengers, as well as first, second and third class. New public rooms were constructed for this class, although tourist third cabin and second class would merge to become tourist by late 1931. A year later, further changes were made to improve Olympic's first class cabins. New suites were added on the forward B deck, and a dance floor was fitted in the first class dining saloon. By the early 1930s, with new superliners such as Italy's SS Rex or the French SS Ile-de-France entering service, the Olympic and her older running mates were quickly outclassed. The majority of passengers preferred the newer ships, and with the Great Depression cutting the passenger numbers in half, the White Star Line sent the Olympic for an overhaul in 1932. She returned to service in March 1933, however for the first time in her career was operating at a loss. 1933 was her worst year financially, carrying only 9,000 passengers. By 1934, many crossings were still losing money. On the 15th of May 1934, the Olympic collided once again with another vessel, this time the Nantucket lightship. She was travelling in heavy fog and failed to turn in time before she struck the lightship, which broke apart and sank, with the loss of 7 crew out of 11. In 1934, the British government merged Cunard with the White Star Line to form Cunard White Star. This merger allowed funds to be secured for the upcoming Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth ships. By now, the Olympic had long been hopelessly outclassed by newer vessels, despite her reputation, and so as such was retired and left New York for the final time on the 5th of April 1935, returning to Britain to be laid up and put up for sale. A potential buyer suggested turning her into a floating hotel off the coast of France. However, nothing materialised out of this. She was laid up in Southampton against her old rival, the Mauretania, for 5 months, until she was bought by Sir John Jarvis for £97,500 to be partially dismantled at Jarrow to provide work for the region. On the 11th of October 1935, the Olympic left Southampton for the final time, arriving in Jarrow on the 13th. Between 1935 and 1937, her superstructure was dismantled, and then the hull was towed to Inverkeithing for final scrapping, which was completed by late 1937. Overall, the Olympic had travelled 1.8 million miles in total, transporting 430,000 passengers, earning herself a reputation for reliability and the nickname the Old Reliable, completing 257 round trips across the Atlantic. The Olympic had a successful career at sea, surviving multiple collisions with other vessels, serving as a troop ship and being in service for 24 years. But by the 1930s, she had become obsolete, built for a market of carrying immigrants to the new world that no longer existed. Unfortunately, the Great Depression was really the final straw for the iconic ship.